Can you beat Doom the Dark Ages without using guns? Well, seeing as how this game was designed with heavy emphasis on melee combat, yes. Yes, you can beat this game without using guns. Hold up, there's unskippable sections in which gun use is mandatory? Man, why you gotta do this to me in software? I suppose the question can be rephrased as, how many times do you have to use your arsenal during your melee-only playthrough of Doom the Dark Ages? Yeah, that's a mouthful. Anyways, here are the rules and here's the montage. So, the intro cutscene starts playing with the Doomslayer getting ready for lunch. Wait, hold up. You're not gonna need this, little bro, you can leave it. Anyways, after getting deployed to the battlefield, I played around with the various damage options I had. At the start of the game there's two, shield bashing and landing after a fall. Let's talk more about the latter option. Whenever the Slayer lands on the ground after a drop, he creates a shockwave that insta-kills fodder demons and also damages heavy demons. I tried it out on this Imp Stalker right here, and at a certain point he just kinda got sick of dealing with my shenanigans and just stood there, menacingly. Shortly after this arena I got the Power Gauntlet. I severely overlooked this thing on my first playthrough, but in the end, I gotta say that this thing has to be a contender for the best melee weapon in the game. Its upgrades are sweet. Level 1 came and went rather quickly. Surprisingly enough, it didn't take me too long to beat it. As its conclusion though, there was a mandatory turret section. Anyways, I moved on to the second level and got the Shield Saw upgrade, which added a lot of much needed utility to the shield, like being able to throw it to insta-kill fodder enemies and stun heavy demons. One thing that I didn't really pick up on during my first playthrough is that every parried attack contributes to the recharge time on the melee weapons, which is immensely helpful. Shield guys were also introduced in this level, but thankfully a couple of shield bashes and a shield throw disables them. At this point in the story, the Slayer is baroque, and I can confidently say that I can finally feel represented. But anyway, in order for me to upgrade all of my tools, I need money! So for the first few levels, like a little rat searching for treats, I tried my best to sniff out all of the treasure I could find, so that I could max out the upgrades on my shield and the Power Gauntlet. The addition of the Chainsaw Shield really improved the feel of the game after the first level, which allowed me to get to the end boss rather easily, knock him down and get to the Atlan level. The Atlan levels are some of the most spectacle-filled sections in this game. They are mostly melee based, which is good, but there are sections in these levels where you are given a long-range weapon, like this chain gun for instance. Thankfully, you can empty the entire clip into the ground to stick to the challenge rules and proceed to pummel the titans, finishing the level. The next level gives us another useless gun. I'll just put it back here. The shield throw works really well in clearing out the waves in the first arena. I still needed money! So I looked around for more secrets around this level, got to the Sentinel Shrine, and upgraded my equipment as far as I could. In comes the first, quote-unquote, boss of the game, the Vagary Champion. Alrighty, time for the dragon sections, and obviously gun use is mandatory for these if I wanted to finish these levels, there's no way around that. The first victim of the dragon was this poor titan guarding the exit to a couple of hell tanks. After eliminating all those, I flew around the map, destroying 4 hail carrier ships and 1 squid tentacle thingy. Cyber demons were also introduced on this level, and let me tell you, there is no better way to cyberbully them than by feeding them a nice little continuous stream of knuckle sandwiches. Chain Gunners showed up too, and dealing with them was a massive pain. Their shields are sturdier than the ones found on the regular soldier demons, so I either had to bash into them like 5 or 6 times, or attempt to go around them to melee them twice or throw a shield. Not fun. Anyways, I continued to fill my greedy little pockets with money, and I was able to fully upgrade my power gauntlet, which was now a proper fisting weapon, as it now stores 4 charges on condition that I parry an attack. With that done, I completed the final arena and moved on to the next level, where I acquired the flail, which I was kind of disappointed with. It's slower than the power gauntlet and does less damage when both are max upgraded, so it's not this uber soloing melee weapon, and sadly because of it, I won't be using it for that much in this playthrough. I also collected toys of Serath and the Slayer. Trust me, it's very important for story progression. I also continued my search for wealth, which led me to discover the chain shot. It might look like a melee weapon, but nah, it's still not one. I also upgraded my shield to the max and did a little bit of fighting. The level was now cleared and I moved on to the next one, which opened up with a turret section and even more demons to fist. All in all, not that long of a level, so let's see what the next one has in store. The Abyssal Forest introduces the Whiplash. At the time of recording, this enemy was bugged. Every parried attack did not contribute to the melee recharge, which thankfully is now fixed. Also, look at this cool trick shot. Cool, right? Another turret section incoming, but this time I gotta clear out the rubble instead of killing a titan. This level came and went rather quickly, but it ended on a pretty high note with this arena and the subsequent boss fight. Moving inside the facility, I got into a room with 2 chain gunners. This was absolutely horrifying. Anyways, I got the first shield rune, one of 4, one of which will be a cornerstone for dealing damage to enemies. The next level takes us to Hell. At this point, the melee build was almost complete, with the final finishing touches coming up in the level after this one. So, with the level complete, we smoothly shift into the next Atlan level, with the gimmick this time being the Atlan-sized shotgun weapon, which can also have its ammunition depleted, allowing me to knock the titans out with my sturdy right hooks. The level then transitions into ground combat, and right at the start I got the Holy Swarm rune, which I immediately upgraded, as it's the last piece of the puzzle for this build. This thing is just nuts. How it works is that whenever you parry a Hell Surge projectile, a swarm of swords is released at the demons that deal ludicrous damage. Its cooldown is also deceptively low, allowing you to fire up the daggers once every 3 or 4 seconds. I didn't really consider using this thing during my first playthrough, but oh boy, I wish I did. It's really fun to play around with. Alright, the level ends with another Agadon Hunter fight, and I moved on to the next level. Taken to the skies, I once again had to bring down a couple of Hail Carriers, destroy a couple of tentacles, and close a couple of Hell Gates. At the end of the level, the Goth baddie gets abducted, so we obviously have to go save her. This level, Spire of Neraful, is one of my all-time favorites in the series. It's very open due to it being a dragon level, offers a nice challenge in its Slayer sections, and has a unique objective. You have to free someone instead of, actually killing someone for once. It was challenging and very sloppy, but here's the BFC section melee only. After that, the big boy is freed, and the Slayer latches onto it to travel into the next level. The first level in the Cosmic Realm introduces the Cosmic Baron. Having the Baron in a Doom game get introduced so much later than the Cyber Demon felt really weird, by the way. During my time playing, I also found out about this cool trick. If you throw a shield at the side and summon it back with the right mouse button, any non-boss demon will get staggered by it, which is a nice little piece of tech for future playthroughs. This level also introduces the Acolyte, the second most annoying demon for this playthrough. Before being able to put him to sleep, you first gotta eliminate his spectral projection, which for a build with limited resources is kinda annoying to deal with. I was then granted a godly gift, the BFS, the Big Fucking Stick, the love child of the Crucible and the Sentinel Hammer from Doom Eternal. It's infinitely dense, so the Slayer is canonically swinging infinite weight around like it's nothing. And I'm not joking when I call this thing the BFS. Once upgraded, its destructive potential is only comparable to the BFG, as it can one-shot pretty much every non-boss demon in this game. And upgrade it is exactly what I did as soon as I got my hands on the Sentinel Shrine. The sauce of this weapon is in the final upgrade point that allows the Slayer to swing the mace twice after performing a parry, which makes it an absolutely goated weapon. Once I was done with the upgrades and the demons, I moved on over to the next chapter where I collected 2 parts of a squid-shaped relic and got to really feel the tremendous power of the BFS. After activating the relic, I progressed to the next level, which had a really fun fight against 2 vagaries. At the end of the level, the Slayer is swallowed up by Cthulhu and now has to force his way out into the outside. Once the Slayer reaches Cthulhu's vital organ, he destroys it and reaches the Goth baddie. We get to experience what it feels like to be touched by a woman, are rejected, and get sent to jail. After escaping, we can no longer be considered the same person anymore.
Payment required.
Once all the demons in this level were done and dealt with, the Slayer gets resurrected and faces the demons in the real world again. With the Lele... Why does my script has Lele instead of level? Huh? Am I stupid? With the level almost complete, Doomguy takes to the skies, kills another tentacle and faces Obesity's final boss in his floating fortress. Once that guy was dealt with, it was time for the penultimate level, which opens up with an Atlan section. It plays similarly to the previous levels until the point that you get the Atlan chain gun. I tried for a while to drain the ammunition on it, but to no avail. It for some odd reason has an infinite ammo pool, which holds the Atlan sections back from being played through with fists only, sadly. After several minutes of trying to see this bar on the screen go down, and not seeing it budge even a pixel, I gave up on it and started shooting at these fools left and right. The section ends with the Cthulhu boss fight, which, thankfully, can be completed melee only if you disregard the fact that the Slayer uses the Atlan's cannons during the glory kill animations. Alright, next up, the penultimate boss. Not too difficult, not too easy. Parry, hit, repeat. Here's how it went. Prince Askrak then transforms and does the dumbest mistake a Doom villain can make. He kills Doomguy's pet. Okay, you're done. I'm switching to my fists because of that. With the prince defeated, he escapes, like the coward he is, and we gotta go grab him again in the final level of this game. Just a quick side note, I also made sure to collect 666 gold before I finished this level, so yeah. Knock knock, dickheads. Okay, this fight was really fun. Of all the games to have a great gank boss fight, I did not expect Doom to have one. Even From Software haven't really nailed that one yet. Azrak in this fight has a lot of his moves carried over from the previous encounter, and the witch is the typical long-range casting type enemy. She doesn't have a lot of parryable projectiles, so at certain points the fight would drag a little bit when it was her turn to be tickled.
I command the Horde. Kill me, and this war will never end.
And with that, I was able to complete Doom the Dark Ages without using my guns. Well, for the most part, at least. So how many times did I have to use weapons in this game, and how many enemies had to be defeated by them? Here's the breakdown. This run was tremendously fun, and I recommend you try it out as well. Thank you everybody for watching, have a good one, peace. It's slower than the fist and does less damage than I fucking died.